So this whole tango dancing journey has not exactly been all fun and games. After trying various lifts in a stage tango class, I have now for the second time injured my rib cage. Should you cease all activity when you suffer an injury? Since my motto is never stop moving, I don't think so. You might not be able to tell, but I have two ribs on this right side of my body are out of alignment and it hurts. So I don't want to increase the pain or do anything that's going to aggravate the tissues. But I do need to keep energy moving into and through those tissues that are in distress in order for them to heal. So I am just going to share with you a few exercises that I am doing currently to address this situation. Just exercises and ways of moving to help support the situation. So I'm sitting on a stool, so you can sit on any firm, flat surface. Nothing too hard because you want to be very upright and sitting up on top of your sitting bones. My feet are a little bit in front of my knees, so I want to feel relaxed in the upper thighs. So I'm just going to brush the upper thighs a little bit so that they don't feel congested. And I'm going to use my breathing, what I call conscious yawning breathing, to stimulate the soft tissue in the body, to take pressure off of the joints, basically. And so this is a specific breathing technique that I teach that's based on yawning. So, as I consciously call upon an in-breath, with my mouth still closed, I am going to lower my chin, essentially scooping my jaw open like this. That's when I inhale. When I exhale, my mouth is open. I'm moving my jaw a little bit, a little side to side, and even around. But I want to keep the feeling of my chin reaching down. I'm really standing up inside my pelvis when I do this. So I breathe in and down, as if I were really swallowing a yawn. And I exhale and keep my chin as if it's being pulled down. Inhale. And exhale. Now, as I'm breathing this way, I am not putting any pressure on my ribs to do anything. I am, however, noticing the soft tissue inside of the rib cage. If it's responding, how it's responding, I want it to respond. Now, since I am feeling very vulnerable in my ribs, meaning they hurt, I am going to use my hands very lightly to support my rib cage as I breathe, and in very specific ways. I try to relax my shoulders down by keeping my collarbones really wide. I can achieve some degree of success in keeping the shoulders from rising like this. I'm placing my hands on the front side edges of the rib cage here. When I breathe in, I do want to make sure that I'm working with my jaw, allowing that hinge to kind of open. And that is informing my back space of my lower ribs, lungs, this lower back area. I want to feel openness there. That's when I inhale. Now when I exhale, my hands on my ribs, I want to melt, melt, melt. What's inside? What's underneath the thick flesh under the rib cage? I'm not putting pressure on the ribs. I'm just sliding my hands this way, and that is encouraging the ribs to follow, but there's no pressure because I would be in pain if I pushed on the ribs. I'm not pushing on them or pressing on them at all, really. I'm just more sliding my hands this way. And that's when I exhale. I'm rocking back just a little bit to the degree that I can. But again, it's by melting my insides. Now when I inhale, I'm placing my hands on my pelvis to encourage my pelvis to come very, very upright so that I'm really not pushing into the back of the pelvis, the sacrum. I'm really drawing the pelvis up right on top of the femurs so that the femurs really can sit nicely into those hip socket pockets. This is the therapy to start. So I'm breathing in, pelvis is upright. I breathe out. I breathe the yawning breath, allowing my chin to drop and come upright. And I breathe out again. And we just want to feel a melting underneath and inside. And I feel no pain on my ribs. And I can move them. Inhale, and really making sure my pelvis is upright. And then when I exhale, I'm melting. And I will do that like 10 repetitions. So I want to feel that the thick flesh underneath the rib cage and also the space inside of myself, inside of my rib cage, around my organs, that there is space and that there is movement happening in synchronicity with the breathing without pushing on the external structure. The external structure is following the movement of the breath, the soft tissue inside, the energy inside. So I'm going to try to add a little rotation now, which is tricky. So again, when I inhale, the same feeling. If you just try to lower your chin by scooping around the edges here of the jaw. Scoop as you inhale. I am opening up. I can feel all the back musculature, whole back chain, much more employed. I feel sensation there. I feel opening there. So I even feel it in the back of my skull. Most definitely in the back of my skull. So when I inhale, I'm gonna just rotate so that my nose is in alignment with my right leg. So it's a very small distance to travel on this rotation. I'm just really facing the diagonal here. When I exhale, facing this diagonal, again, my hands are just sliding as I melt my insides. I'm not trying to make my ribs behave. That's an exhalation. Now when I inhale, my hands on my thigh, I breathe that yawning breath to bring myself up. And then I go to the other side, exhaling. So there's a little rotation and softening into flexion. And then inhale, hands on my thigh, to come up. Exhale. Hands on the thigh, inhale. Exhale. Hands on the thigh, inhale. Exhale. Very gently. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And again, I would keep going. I will keep going with that. So, one of the major elements when you have an injury, one of the major problems is compensating. So you're going to have some compensations because your body is naturally going to try to move away from whatever part of you that is hurting. And that's going to create some shifties that I call compensations. That's going to take you out of alignment. So when you have an injury, it's so important to use your breath just to feel where you are in space and check out your alignment. Even if you can't move at all physically, like move your arms or legs, you can still breathe. You can still feel how the breath is traveling in your body. You can still pay attention to that. And then if you can take it into various movements, you would want to use the breathing to guide you in that way. So one of the compensations or one of the issues with this particular injury is that my rib cage, the musculature is not firing. The muscles through the ribs, between the ribs, they are in distress. And so the rib cage itself is more distended. So that's going to pull a little bit on my spine. So I'm paying special attention to my lumbar, lower thoracic spine in addressing this issue. So the reason why I'm using my hands to articulate and move my pelvis is to check in and make sure that my pelvis is in fact moving, because it might not be. I might think it's moving, but it's not. And I want to pay special attention to the muscles along the spine. So if you could visualize the width of an index finger, along either side of the spine, right in this region from where the waistband of the pants is up towards the lower back ribs. So I want to pay special attention to that area because that is an area that is being compromised right now with the the vulnerability of my rib cage and the discomfort that my rib cage is in. So I can use the chair standing this way, my hands on the chair, and I'm bending my knees to bring my torso into more of a neutral position, like a flat back. When I exhale, I'm going to feel, in particular, try to feel along the spine an energy moving this way, up towards the tip of my shoulder blades, actually. That's when I breathe out. And I'm still melting the front, but I'm actually dropping my chest cavity just a little bit through my shoulders and release my head. When I inhale, this is where I want to really articulate my pelvis over the head of the femurs and bringing my chest a little bit through my shoulders. So I'm not putting pressure on the ribs here. I'm really focusing on my lower belly and my pelvis moving. Now, to add to it, I'm gonna rise up and down through the balls of my feet. So when I seek the exhalation to curl, I'm actually gonna lift onto the balls of the feet and then lower. And then when I change the position of the spine, I'm again gonna lift, inhale on the balls of the feet, and exhale, lower. Inhale, I start to transition out of the arch by rising up to the balls of the feet, and then I sit into it by bending my knees. Exhale. Inhale. I want to feel like I'm actually lifting the tissue along the spine. Lift down the balls of the feet, and then exhale. Inhale. Drop the chin, opening the valve. Exhale. Inhale, rising through long legs onto the balls of the feet. Flip the pelvis over and exhale. Inhale, the legs lengthen. Exhale. Inhale, the legs lengthen as I rise up onto the balls of the feet, and exhale. So in this way, I'm still mobilizing the spine, and then I'm going to release the hands from the chair and carefully roll up through the spine. So just sharing some of what I'm going through here, and this is just a part of the realities of being a dancer. Injuries do happen all the time, and knowing how to address them is really important, not just for your physical body, but spiritually and emotionally as well.